we play ourselves, which is easy and pretty cool. And we're working right now. We're in the writing process. We're about to enter pre-production. So basically, it's going to be like a behind-the-scenes look at the podcast that you hear and all of the crazy stuff that leads up to it. So the topic of the podcast will drive a lot of the action in the show as well. It's going to be a pretty cool show, I think, if I may say so.
It's fictional though, so it's like what we really would love our jobs to be. We make it much more exciting than our real jobs.
Right.
And
Who's next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So obviously right now you have the podcast, which is great for people who, have either stumbled upon it, or have gone out and searched for it. But having visual media, having TV, just means such a great opportunity to get people who might stumble across it, surfing just the TV channels. Right. Are you going to be changing the format much to be able to grab that audience, or are you going to stick to mostly the type of format you have for the podcast, but in a visual means?
No, it's like a TV show. So it's like the podcast there's like a script that we write and like lines we learn and that kind of thing. And there's we're gonna improv some of it, and it's not gonna be verbatim from the script, but it's us playing ourselves. But I mean, it's basically there's the podcast scenes are scenes that you would hear, but it's us recording the podcast. And then in between those, there's action, like a TV show or. I don't want to say a sitcom or anything like that, but it's definitely not a documentary show or anything like that. And we've always said also we're going to always stick to the format that we do and put out the podcast for as long as we have breath or someone will put microphones in front of us. So that won't be changing either.
And the cool part is these guys are so real. That's what we were attracted to. And people from the science team were huge fans of the podcast. And in our very first meeting, what I said to them is, bear with us, it's going to take a while, because the biggest mistake I think people make when they take something that's worked in another medium is try and make it, reinvent it, and get you to be something that you're not for a television platform, and it fails. So we wanted to get to know these guys. We did short form, bunch of them, 1 minute, and we just fell in love with what these guys did. The production company, School of Humans, was amazing. And so we wanted something that really was focused about the real Chuck and Josh, because they're so authentic. But to put them in a hyper-reality situation. So it's taking reality up a notch, scripting it, but we want them to be themselves. And then what we'll do from the show is promote viewers to the podcast. So you see little pieces of that podcast. The whole podcast will push them right to it, and the podcast will push them to next week's episode. It's a whole bold new experiment.
Boy, we need to have Debbie in all our interviews.
From now on,
she's much better at distilling it. But yeah, she said it best. We're all really excited, and science has gone out on a limb to do something different for their air, and we took the right approach, I think, taking it slow and figuring it out, and because it's really easy to mess it up. Yeah. We've learned, and I don't think we're messing up this time. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, and we even did a full pilot, and that we took to focus groups too, because you get so close to a project that sometimes you just want to go out and talk to people that are fans and have them tell you what they love and what they didn't love so much. So we learned from that one pilot, so that when we go in and start writing the next 12, when these guys are unleashed, they've got their playbook of, okay, amp up this, not so much on this area. And we'll go. And you're never done with this, so it's a constant work in progress. You learn every single day, you tweak every single day, and we'll learn a lot from the first season that you're ready, and you make a stronger second season. Knock on wood.
There's a second season?
Yeah, you haven't heard it yet. Let's just knock it out of the park with the first one.
Agreed.
But in my head, it's season 46. So.
Awesome.
So the pilot, is that what you took to South by Southwest? And so what was some of the feedback you got from that you kind of are modifying or making the show better with that, or is it basically just what you presented there at South by Southwest?
No, we used that. South by Southwest got great feedback. We got a lot of good feedback. We literally took it into focus groups. And I'm a believer of focus groups not telling you what to do creatively. Trust your gut on that. And, trust that you know your viewers and you know how to make that best. But what we got feedback on is a little bit shorter. On some areas, that they loved the actuality of these guys out and about, interacting, get to those points a little bit quicker, and they love the humor. Humor, like play up the humor, don't get sticky about it, but more humor. And they love the nuggets, the stuff you should know. Part of it, shorter doses. So it really helped our pacing. The biggest feedback was how we, in any story that you're doing, how you're creating an arc to take you from the beginning to the end. You're kind of foreshadowing where you're going, but you want to twist it and turn it so the audience is kind of thrown off base and arrives with a nice surprising ending.
Given this change in format, are there any topics that you've previously covered in the podcast that you would think about going back and revisiting or expanding on?
I don't think we're going to redo any podcasts, but some of the show topics we've done as a podcast, some we haven't done as a podcast, and we will end up doing those as a podcast, and probably smartly aligning that with the show's release. So, for instance, in the pilot we did a segment on zombies. We'd already done a podcast on zombies, so it was pretty easy to go back and reference that. But as we're writing, we've come up with a lot of really cool, mind-bending science ideas that we haven't recorded yet, that we're excited to go and record as podcasts.